The human ship hovered silently above the alien planet, its sleek metal frame glinting under the light of two suns. Commander Adrian Hale stared at the enormous palace below, a structure unlike anything he had ever seen. It floated above the ground, held aloft by some unknown force, its walls shimmering like liquid metal. Strange lights pulsed along its surface, casting colors Adrian couldn't even name. He swallowed hard. This is incredible, he whispered to himself. Even after years of space travel, nothing had prepared him for the sight of the alien Queen's court. Adrian had been chosen as the human envoy, the first to set foot inside the palace. His mission was simple: negotiate a trade agreement. But as he descended into the palace's massive main hall, he felt a tension that went far beyond diplomacy. The hall was enormous, stretching high above his head. Floating platforms carried alien courtiers, each more unusual than the last. Some had translucent skin, others had multiple limbs that moved in perfect harmony. A low hum filled the air, a sound that seemed to vibrate directly in his chest. Adrian's human senses struggled to take it all in. And then, at the far end of the hall, he saw her. The alien queen. She was taller than any human, her presence commanding the attention of every being in the room. Her eyes glowed faintly, a soft golden light, and her long, flowing robe seemed to float in the air, as if alive. Adrian felt a shiver run down his spine. He had read countless reports about alien species, but nothing prepared him for the gravity of her presence. And beside her, a child. The child looked almost human at first glance, though Adrian quickly realized that was only an illusion. Its eyes were a brilliant shade of violet, larger than a human's, and its hair shimmered like liquid silver. The child's small hands hovered in the air, controlling glowing orbs that floated around it. The entire court fell silent, as if waiting for some signal. "Welcome, human," a voice echoed in Adrian's mind. Not spoken aloud, but somehow transmitted directly. He realized it was the Queen. "I thank you," Adrian said cautiously, though his voice sounded small in the vast hall. The Queen's gaze shifted to the child, who floated forward slowly. The court leaned forward, and even the palace itself seemed to hold its breath. Adrian's pulse quickened. Something was about to happen, he could feel it. Then the child spoke. "Father." The word was simple, almost innocent. But it struck Adrian like a thunderbolt. He froze in place. The entire hall froze with him. Courtiers gasped, guards stiffened, and the Queen herself paled. "Father?" Adrian repeated, his voice barely audible. He looked around. No one else seemed to understand. The child's eyes were fixed on him, calm and certain, as if there was no question in the world. The murmurs started quietly, then grew louder. Whispers in alien tongues, a wave of confusion and shock rolling through the court. Adrian took a cautious step forward. I think you have me mistaken." The child shook its head slowly. "No mistake. You are my father." A tense silence fell. Adrian wanted to speak, to explain, to deny, but the words wouldn't come. Every instinct in his body screamed that something impossible was happening. The Queen stepped forward, her hands raised in a gesture of command. "Stop." Her voice, both soft and terrifying, echoed through the hall. The courtiers froze, eyes wide with shock. Even the floating platforms hovered in place as if obeying her silent order. Adrian noticed that the child's eyes didn't waver. It remained calm, almost defiant, staring directly at him. There was an intelligence in those eyes that went beyond any child he had ever met. And yet, there was something else, a strange familiarity that made his chest tighten, a feeling he could not explain. Why would you call me that?" Adrian finally asked, his voice trembling. The child's lips curved into a small smile. "I know you. I have always known you." The hall seemed to shrink around him. Every alien presence, every glowing light, every whispered sound focused on that one moment. Adrian's mind raced. Could this be some kind of test? A trick? He searched for logic, for reason, but found none. "Your child, you're what?" One of the alien ministers finally spoke, its voice high and tense. "This is impossible. The queen's expression was unreadable, but her eyes betrayed shock and disbelief. She reached for the child, as if to take it away, but the child floated backward, keeping its gaze on Adrian. Adrian's heart pounded. He could feel the weight of the moment pressing on him, heavier than gravity itself. Every instinct told him to flee, to deny it, but something in the child's voice, its certainty, anchored him. "Explain yourself," he demanded, though his voice shook. "I have no need to explain," the child said softly. "I remember everything. And now, so must you." The words hung in the air, strange and incomprehensible. Adrian felt a sudden pressure in his head, as if memories that weren't his own were brushing against the edges of his mind. He staggered slightly, gripping the edge of a floating platform for support. The court remained frozen. Even the queen, whose presence usually radiated authority and power, could not break the tension. Every being in the hall waited for what would happen next. Adrian took a deep breath. "If what you say is true, then how? How is this possible?" The child smiled again, a small, knowing smile. "You will understand in time. But first, you must accept me." The words echoed in Adrian's mind like a promise and a warning. He looked around, seeing the courtiers staring at him, the queen's silent command still hanging in the air. The hall felt suspended in a moment that stretched into eternity. And then, as if the universe itself was holding its breath, the child reached out a small hand toward him. Adrian hesitated. Every part of him screamed to resist, to question, to turn away. But curiosity, fear, and a strange sense of destiny pushed him forward. He stepped closer. The hall remained silent. The floating lights shimmered, the pulsing hum of energy grew stronger, and every eye in the court stayed fixed on him. He reached out. And in that instant, the world seemed to tilt. Adrian barely remembered stepping back from the child's outstretched hand. His mind was a storm of confusion and disbelief. How could this small alien being call him father? How could it know him after traveling across the stars? The grand hall of the alien queen's palace had returned to its normal rhythm, though the tension still hummed beneath every floating light. Courtiers whispered to one another in their strange, musical language. Even the queen, her glowing eyes narrowed in thought, had not spoken since the child had called Adrian father. A soft voice echoed again in Adrian's mind. Not the child's, but the queen's. "Follow me. There are truths you must see." Adrian swallowed and nodded. He had no choice. Every instinct told him danger awaited, but some unexplainable pull urged him forward. The queen led him down a corridor that seemed to stretch endlessly, its walls made of a strange crystal that reflected not just light, but memory. "This way," she said, her voice low, almost melodic. "You must understand what you have been connected to long before you even arrived here." Adrian's brow furrowed. Connected to what? She stopped in front of a large doorway, etched with glowing alien symbols. The child floated in silently behind her, eyes bright and focused. For a moment, Adrian could swear he saw flashes of images inside the child's mind, images of himself on Earth, as a boy, laughing with people he barely remembered. The queen motioned for him to enter. "The archives," she said. "They will show you." Inside, the room was vast, circular, and glowing with pale blue light. Holographic panels floated midair, displaying alien text and images. Adrian's eyes widened as he realized these were no ordinary archives. They were alive. Streams of energy danced along the walls, forming shapes and visions. The child hovered at the center, calm and watching. The queen spoke, almost whispering, but the words carried in Adrian's mind. This child was created, not born. Centuries ago, our scientists worked with travelers from another world. They sought to combine knowledge, strength, and loyalty. The result was this child. Adrian's stomach tightened. Created? You mean I'm somehow linked to this? Yes, the queen replied. Your genetics, your memories, your very essence, were used as a blueprint. This child remembers you. Knows you. Waits for you. The child floated closer to Adrian, tiny hands glowing faintly. I have known you across time, it said softly. And now, you must know me. Images flashed in Adrian's mind, a laboratory filled with alien scientists, human and alien technology intertwined, and a glowing infant being watched with reverence. A sudden clarity hit him. He remembered vaguely, like a dream, that as a young scientist, he had once participated in experiments with alien DNA samples. Something had been taken from him, something vital, and he had forgotten. Somehow, it had survived across the stars, leading to this moment. Adrian staggered. All this, you've used me. The child's eyes softened. Not used. Connected. I am a part of you, and you a part of me. That is why I called you father. The Queen's voice sharpened. But the connection is dangerous. There are factions who will destroy the child to seize this power. You must protect them, human. You are the only one who can. Adrian swallowed hard. Danger. He had not expected this. The mission had been simple: diplomacy, trade, perhaps peace. Now he faced something far larger, something that could determine the fate of worlds. The child's voice broke through again, calm and commanding. They will come for me soon. You must decide, will you fight or flee? Adrian looked at the child, then at the Queen, then back at the floating holographic images. His heart pounded, but he felt a strange determination growing. He could not run. He could not deny this connection. Somehow, this child was his responsibility, his family, and he would not abandon them. A sudden alarm echoed through the palace. Red lights flashed along the walls. Adrian's pulse quickened. What is that? He asked. The Queen's eyes hardened. A rival faction. They have learned of the child's existence. They are coming. You must act now. Before Adrian could respond, a massive shadow fell across the room. Through the windows, he could see ships descending, dark, jagged, and fast. The rival aliens were here. And they were not coming for diplomacy. The child floated forward, eyes glowing brighter. Do not fear, it said. I know your mind. I can guide us. Adrian swallowed again. He had faced danger before: space battles, hostile planets, even rogue alien fleets. But this was different. This was personal. Protecting this child meant more than surviving. It meant facing a future he had never imagined, and trusting a being from another world as if it were his own. The Queen raised her hands, energy crackling around her. Human, follow my instructions. Together, we can defend the child and the court. But you must act quickly. Adrian took a deep breath. The room was alive with energy, the child's presence glowing like a beacon. He felt a surge of courage, and for the first time since arriving, he understood something profound: this was not just about politics, or diplomacy, or even survival. This was about family. Let's do this, he said, his voice steady. Tell me what to do. The child reached out, placing a small hand near his chest. A warm glow spread from the contact, and Adrian felt clarity: memories, instincts, and strategies merging with his own thoughts. He understood now, in a way he never had before. They were linked, and together, they could face what was coming. Outside, the shadow of the enemy fleet loomed ever closer. The palace trembled as the first waves of attackers struck. Inside, Adrian, the child, and the Queen prepared. The court watched, silent but ready, as the fate of their worlds hung on the bond of an unexpected father and his extraordinary child. And in that moment, Adrian realized that nothing, not even the vastness of space, could prepare him for what was about to come. The palace shook. Red alarms flashed across the walls as the first wave of alien ships slammed into the force fields. Adrian's heart raced. He had faced dangerous situations before, but nothing like this: an entire alien court depending on him, a child who called him father, and an enemy fleet determined to destroy everything. The child floated at his side, small but glowing with a strange power that made the air shimmer. Adrian could feel the energy radiating from it, almost as if it were alive, guiding him. Remember, the child said, its voice calm yet commanding. You are not alone. We are one. Adrian swallowed hard. The words gave him courage. Somehow, the connection they shared made him feel stronger, faster, sharper. He could sense the child's thoughts, its awareness extending through the palace. Together, they were more than human and alien, they were a single force. The queen appeared beside them, her arms raised. Energy crackled around her like lightning, forming barriers and glowing weapons. Her voice resonated in the hall. Protect the child at all costs. Let none pass. Adrian turned to the court. Aliens of every kind, from glowing beings to multi-limbed creatures, braced for battle. For the first time, Adrian realized the true scale of the queen's power, not just hers, but the collective strength of her court. He nodded to them. They were ready. Outside, the enemy fleet descended like a storm. Ships ripped through the force fields, firing blasts of energy that shook the palace's foundations. Explosions lit up the sky. Adrian felt the ground tremble beneath him. The child floated forward, eyes glowing brighter. Tiny orbs of energy circled it, forming patterns that pulsed in rhythm with the child's thoughts. Adrian felt a wave of clarity wash over him. He understood what to do. Follow me, he shouted to the queen and the court. We will hold them together. The palace corridors became a battlefield. The enemy aliens broke through outer defenses, moving with terrifying speed. Adrian, guided by the child's awareness, dodged blasts, directed courtiers to weak points, and countered attacks with strategies he had never imagined himself capable of. The child's energy was astonishing. Orbs of glowing light shot from its hands, disarming attackers, creating shields, and even manipulating the very gravity of the rooms. Adrian felt their minds connect in a strange rhythm, every move, every thought, perfectly synchronized. The queen, standing atop a platform of floating energy, raised her hands to the sky. Witness the bond between human and child, she declared. Streams of light arced from her fingers, striking enemy ships and sending them crashing into the ground below. The court cheered, and even Adrian felt a surge of awe. Amid the chaos, Adrian caught a glimpse of the enemy commander, a massive, armored alien with 4 glowing eyes, controlling the attack from a massive ship. It was clear this was not just a raid, it was a mission to capture the child. And yet, the child did not panic. Adrian reached out, placing his hand on the child's glowing energy. We can do this. Together. The child smiled. Yes. Father. At that moment, the child's full power erupted. Waves of energy expanded through the palace, lifting enemy ships into the air and tossing them like toys. The court gasped, witnessing a human and an alien child standing side by side, their combined power reshaping the battlefield. The enemy commander roared, realizing the tide had turned. It sent its strongest forces forward, but Adrian and the child anticipated every move. Courtiers fought alongside them, inspired by the human's courage and the child's mysterious abilities. Time seemed to slow. Each attack was countered before it landed. Every enemy advance was stopped by strategy, energy, and instinct. Adrian felt something extraordinary. He wasn't just surviving. He was leading, protecting, and commanding a force that could change the galaxy. Finally, with a last burst of light, the enemy fleet shattered, retreating into the void of space. Silence fell over the palace. The floating lights dimmed, and the queen lowered her arms, exhausted but victorious. Adrian looked around, heart pounding. They had done it. The child floated in front of him, small hands glowing softly. You are truly my father, it said. Not just in blood or design, but in heart. Adrian felt an overwhelming warmth. Despite the battles, the danger, and the chaos, a strange peace settled over him. He had been tested, pushed to limits he never imagined, and yet, he had risen. The queen approached, her glowing eyes softening. The court has witnessed this bond, she said. You are not merely a visitor, human. You are a protector, a guide, and a father. The prophecy has begun with you. The courtiers bowed, a gesture of respect not just for Adrian, but for the unusual connection he shared with the child. Energy shifted around them, pulsing like a heartbeat, as if the palace itself recognized the change. Adrian looked at the child, and it smiled a smile that was both alien and deeply human. We have much to learn, father, it said. and much to face. But together, we are unstoppable. Outside, the stars shone brightly, two suns casting long shadows over the palace. The threat had passed, but Adrian knew this was only the beginning. The universe was vast, filled with challenges, enemies, and mysteries beyond imagination. But for the first time, Adrian felt ready. Not just as a human, not just as a diplomat, but as a father, bound by choice, destiny, and the extraordinary child who had called him by that simple, impossible word. And as the palace settled into quiet, the human and the child stood together, a bond unbroken, ready to face whatever the stars might throw at them next.